All right, I've got your week 0 reactions, waiver wire, and your questions. Campus to Canton is live. If someone shows you who they are, believe them, believe them. I think DJ Uiagalelei has shown us time and time again who he is. It's Felix Sharp at Sharp Review on Twitter for CampusToCanton.com. We have selected or opted in to the mission of growing college fantasy football. And if you want to help us with that mission, go ahead and hit the like button. I want to get this to 25 likes today. That feels like it's easy. And you know what? I want to set a goal for subscribers. How about we add 100 this week as a vote of confidence for college fantasy football? So go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Help us with our mission of growing the sport of college fantasy football. Jump in the chat, comment, whatever you're doing, or if you're listening, leave us a 5-star rate and review. If someone shows you who they are, believe them. And DJ Uiagalelei, a player with impressive size. We know that he has a howitzer for an arm. He could probably throw it through a brick wall, figuratively, of course. But if physical traits were all that you needed to play the position, we'd be talking about Justin Fields as one of the best that we've ever seen. We might be talking about Zach Wilson as one of the best we've ever seen. I think that we need to stop talking about a player's recruiting pedigree like at all once they've made it to year 2, year 3 of their time in college football. Because just imagine if it was your job, right? If it was your job and Steven in accounting was underperforming and someone brought up his GPA in college, you'd be throwing up your hands like, what are we talking about? You know, Steven, he's had a few bad quarters, but he had a 4.0 GPA at Harvard. That's like the Texas 6A division of colleges. It's weird. Stop it. Stop it. Yeah. When you talk about a player's recruiting pedigree and they've been in college for a couple of years, that's like a telltale sign that that player probably isn't very good. They're just probably not very good. Sorry, Malik Brown at Arizona State. Sorry, Julian Fleming at Penn State. Sorry, Brock Vandagriff here in my home state of Kentucky. Brock Vandagriff might have a chance because we haven't seen him on the field. But chances are, odds are, he's not very good. If a player has been in college for a couple of years, doesn't matter if there was a star, 5-star, what have you. But if we start talking about the recruiting pedigree, it's probably an indication that they're not very good. Because think about it. When we talk about Quinshon Judkins, does anybody mention the fact that he was a 3-star and the 53rd ranked player in his class, or the 53rd running back ranked in his class? No. They talk about how he was a dog at Ole Miss and how his spin move on College Football 25 is too damn overpowering. They actually had to create a patch to like minimize the effect of his spin move. That's how you know he's a dog. They didn't talk about his recruiting pedigree. Nobody talked about Marvin Harrison Jr.'s recruiting pedigree, the fact that he was like wide receiver 19 in his class when he was drafted last year. I didn't hear Mel Kiper talk about it once. Same for Malik Neighbors. That's a crazy recruiting pedigree, or excuse me, a crazy like range, because Malik Neighbors was 19. I'm sorry, Marvin Harrison Jr. was 21. Malik Neighbors was 19 in that class. 18 went Lorenzo Styles, 19 Malik Neighbors, 20 Destin Hill, 21 Marvin Harrison Jr. Woo! That's nice. But didn't hear Mel Kiper talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. being a 4-star once. But when you talk about DJ Uiagalelei, you talk about Brock Vandagriff, they talk about some of these players, they talk about them being a 5-star recruit at their new school. DJU, all of the physical tools, limited mobility, limited processing skills to identify open receivers downfield. How do we know that? because he's a double egg cracker. 2 years ago, Wake Forest. Remember, after that 2021 season, his value took a dip. 2022, Wake Forest, he has that 5-touchdown game. I went on Matt Waldman's show. He asked me, okay, are you back in now? I said, no. This is a selling opportunity. How do we know that? Because he's a double egg cracker. How do we know that he's not comfortable with what he's seeing? Because he's a double egg cracker. He always has been. That's an indication that you aren't confident on what you're seeing downfield. It was evident there in 2022. It's evident here in 2024. Why do you think he's checking the ball down? Because those passes don't require that identification downfield. They're less risky. He's afraid of turning the ball over. So that's what I'm seeing from DJU. And nothing has really changed. So if somebody shows you who they are, believe them. That's a Maya Angelou quote. You know what? Get Maya Angelou on the phone, please. Charlie, are you in the chat? Book. I'd like to talk to her before the end of this show. 2011 Presidential Medal of Freedom honoree, poet laureate, Maya Angelou. Now, it's probably going to be tough because she died in like 2014. So it's going to be a tough guest to get, but get a medium on here or something because I want to talk to Maya Angelou about DJ Uiagalelei's performance in week 0 against Georgia Tech. Get her on the phone. I think I'd be a terrible Hollywood celebrity. Can you imagine if you had that much power? Like everybody's bowing at every request. Somebody would probably tell like Robert Downey Jr., yeah, I can get Maya Angelou on the phone right now, sir. I would absolutely be that dude. I would be that celebrity. I tweeted this yesterday. I think that there's a chance that Drew Aller is on the same arc as DJ Uiagalelei. You know, now he has a few different skills. He definitely has more mobility than DJ U has. Same, but bigger quarterback who has a really good arm. Really liked Drew Aller. But I'm afraid that he's on the same career trajectory. Because think about it, you know, people are touting, all right, that first year as a starter, 20 to 2 interception to touchdown ratio, right? He had that game against Indiana where they threw the ball, they pressed it a little bit more downfield. So we are expecting to see a jump in 2024. I think that there's a chance that jump isn't coming, especially with Andy Kotelnicki coming in there. Like if I'm Andy Kotelnicki, what's going to make me look the best if I turn around and hand it to Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton? There's nothing outside that lets me sleep comfortably at night at the wide receiver positions. Tyler Warren, fine. Andrew Rappelier, fine. But outside, no, I don't think that there's a wide receiver that I feel comfortable with. So if I had Drew Aller, and I do, I would probably consider getting rid of him if you're in a campus to Canton league. Obviously, this only applies there. I would consider getting rid of him and using that name value to get somebody like Devonte Adams, Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, one of these older players who should have a productive 2024, especially if you're a contender. I would get rid of Drew Aller. I see Matty Ice in the chat. I see Luke in the chat. I see Brett in the chat as always. Charlie, get Maya Angelou on the damn phone. Get the ghost of Maya Angelou on the phone so I can talk to her about DJ Uiagalelei's performance. The waiver wire, I know it's week 0, but I'm thinking about doing either a separate video that's short or the live stream talking about players that we should consider for the waiver wire, CFF, C2C, what have you, maybe giving them a grade. So let me know if you like doing it this way or if you want like a 5-minute video. I'm probably also the one that's going to be writing the waiver wire column, at least the C2C waiver wire column for the website this year. Let's talk about Devon Dampier. Devon Dampier for Devon Dampier for New Mexico, the Lobos. They get the loss, but think about this. This is why you have, like, I was thinking about it. Like, do I want to consider this guy now? And I would say I would consider him now because he had 20, depending on your scoring, whether it be 6-point or 4-point touchdown passing touchdowns. He either had 20 or 24 fantasy points yesterday against Montana State. And he lost 2 possessions because New Mexico scored twice on defense. 20 points, and they scored twice on defense. And you would expect for that team to be a negative game scripts the entire year. He started one game last year in a reserve role. He ran for between 300 and 400 yards. I mean, if this is a player that's going to be the center of this offense and run the ball and score on the ground, I think that you have to consider Devon Dampier. 70% completion percentage last year. Yeah, he's going to have more possessions when New Mexico doesn't score twice. Luke Wysong also had 7 targets for 95 yards. I'm probably watch listing Luke Wysong, but let's say, for example, I had, and I keep using this as an example, Austin Mack. Sorry, Folsom High School out there in California. If I had Austin Mack rostered, I might consider dropping him for a player like Devon Dampier because I think I could use him this year, especially if you're in a 3-quarterback league. Now, somebody might disagree with me in the chat. You might disagree with me. I would consider picking up Devon Dampier. I would put Luke Wysong on my watch list to see if he's like when they play. I mean, that's the FCS school that they play. They're going to play FBS teams. And by the way, I think New Mexico's schedule gets ugly really fast. Do they have Arizona this week? They have Arizona next, I think. But their schedule gets bad. I mean, it's the Bronco Mendenhall first year, or is this year 1? They're rebuilding, but I would consider Devon Dampier just because he's going to be used in the running game. I'm telling you, I know that there's some buzz around Kevin Jennings at SMU, the quarterback there. I'm leaving him on the waiver wire for a couple of reasons. One is he's not aggressive enough in the running game, and I don't think that he's not the plus addition in the passing game where it makes me want to roster him. I think it's a good story, but I think that you can get a lot of Kevin Jennings type players later on. So I don't know that I'm necessarily interested. He had 15 carries in the AAC championship game. I think he had 1 yesterday on 2 or 3 drives. I'm watch listing him. I'm not going out and sprinting out because the other thing is when would he become the starter? I think that we should actually have that conversation. Preston Stone did not look like a great quarterback yesterday. Threw 1 interception, through probably I saw at least 2 passes that hit defenders in the hands and then dropped to the ground. There were other passes where you had a wide receiver wide open and it just kind of fell short. Now, I don't know what's going on there. I know that he was recovering from an injury. Maybe he's not fully recovered. You can let me know. He doesn't actually seem the same. So I think the story there in Dallas is Preston Stone doesn't really feel like himself. You got this other guy who feels pretty efficient, but as far as campus to Canton goes or traditional college fantasy, I'm probably not drafting either of those guys. I'm not drafting either of those guys. Now, another waiver wire consideration at the quarterback position. We didn't know if it was going to be Xavier Eckhouse or John Mateer. If you have waiver wires open and they're open before week 1 of the college football season, I would consider adding John Mateer. I think that there's a chance that Washington State program going down a level, playing a Mountain West conference, they could put up explosive numbers this season. And so that makes all of those guys values from Mateer, Williams. Who are the other wide receivers of Washington State? I think that those guys are values, and now that we know that Mateer is the guy, I would consider him. I I said something about waiver wire yesterday, and somebody said Malik Rutherford at Georgia Tech. I'm not looking for Haynes King, number 2 wide receiver. So, no thank you. No thank you on Malik Rutherford. You can put him on the watch list. I'm not rostering him. All right. Let's get to Josh Meredith. Josh Meredith, Carlos Hernandez, Chris Hudson. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Thank you. These are the questions from the Discord. If you want to ask a question, become a member at campuscan.com. Just $2.99 a month or $29.99 for the year. By the way, Coach Hayes was on with Coach Hayes Football. He does a lot of recruiting reaction videos down there in Florida, 305. We did a live stream with him last Friday. He's promoting college fantasy football. He has a promo code right now. Promo code COACH for 10% off. But that promo code is only going to be available for, I think, another 7 days or something like that. So go ahead and get to the website if you want to use that promo code, 10% off. Oh, it only applies to the yearly subscriptions. Question from Shire. What are my thoughts on Terry Bussey? I don't know if it's Bussey or Busey. Terry Busey, an athlete there for Texas A&M. He's the next in the line of Jatavian Sanders, Travis Hunter. Remember Billy Bowman at Oklahoma. Even Braylon Allen at Wisconsin. Chip Trainium. These guys who are designated as athletes, and their value is like super speculative because we don't know what position that they're going to play. Travis, if we would have known Travis Hunter was going to play wide receiver, he would have been drafted a lot higher than he was in leagues, coming in as a freshman, but he wasn't. He was really an afterthought. Same with Braylon Allen. Braylon Allen, I think he came in as a safety for Wisconsin. Yeah, he was on the waiver wire. And he ran for, 100 yards, however many yards it was as a freshman. He was a waiver wire addition because he was designated as an athlete. I like to think that now, 2-3 years removed from that, I think that we would, as a company, we would catch that value. We would let you know, hey, this is somebody that you need to roster. Anyway, let's get back to Terry Bussey. Bussey. Quarterback, wide receiver, cornerback, running back, definitely an athlete. If you look at his Instagram page, I was like, so when I got this question, thoughts on Terry Bussey, basically about his value in Campus Can leagues or CFF leagues. Actually, this is definitely a C2C question. There's no way this is a CFF question. I went to his Instagram page. What does he call himself? If he calls himself a cornerback, that tells me one thing. If he calls himself whatever, that tells me another. You go to his Instagram page, he calls himself an athlete. So that didn't help. Struck out there. Looked up the news there for Texas A&M. And as of August 21st, he has been playing some on offense. And even in the scrimmage, the notes say that he scored a couple of touchdowns. Now, it doesn't sound like this was a scrimmage that was covered live by the media, so they're getting secondhand information. We don't know if that's with the first team. But offense coordinator Colin Klein, he did say this. He said, we'll be able to move him around. And that referred to both at wide receiver and running back. So if the question is Terry Bussey going to play offense? I think that's definitively and unequivocally yes. And should I pick him up? I think that's totally dependent on how many waiver claims you have in your league. Some leagues have unlimited waiver wire. Some we have between 1 and 4 claims to use in a season. I don't know if Terry Bussey warrants using 1 of 4 waiver wire pickups to go get right now. I'm sorry. And this question was from Shire in the Discord. So it kind of depends on how many waiver claims you have. By the way, even if he was a full-time wide receiver in the freshman guide, he's like wide receiver 49 or something like that. So this isn't really it's not a Travis Hunter situation where if we knew he was a full-time wide receiver that he would be ranked in our top, 5 or 10 or whatever for the class. So it's not that situation. Gabe Brooks, who we actually do trust there at 24/7 Sports, it seems like he's he just really knows what he's looking for. He put a first-round grade on Terry Bussey at the wide receiver position, and the comp was Kendall Wright. Kendall Wright, formerly of the Titans? The Titans, I think. So, yeah. Chris mentions in the chat that Trace Bruckler, tight end, was a favorite for Dampier. So, there we go. What else on Bussey? Let me know if you're picking him up or if you have him rostered somewhere. I think people get excited because these players are designated as athletes, and it feels like, this black box, and it could turn into something really big. I don't know that Bussey necessarily is that player. We do have sub 11 100-meter dash times for him, but like in the 10.8 range, if I remember that correctly. So I don't know. And they lose Evan Stewart, Texas A&M does. They got Moose Muhammad. There's not a lot. I mean, they lose Reuben Owens. They could be looking for some offensive firepower, and that might be why he's starting. Why he's, I should say, practicing some with the offense. But that's some, like he had been practicing with the defense. So it's not clear because he switched jerseys. In the CFF context, absolutely not. Absolutely not in traditional college fantasy football. Santi7 Chelsea asks, which Oregon wide receiver recruit will be drafted higher in next year's startup drafts, in next year's startup C2C drafts? Jeremiah McLaurin, Dylan Gresham, or Ryan Pelham? I spent probably way too much time looking at the background of these players and camp news to answer this question, because I don't know that the answer, I think you want to end up looking elsewhere. If you're talking about startup drafts, I don't know that 2 of the 3 of these players are going to be drafted. But anyway, let's look at Oregon's depth chart. And did I say that? These are Oregon freshman wide receivers. So who's going to be drafted higher? This year, you got Evan Stewart, Tez Johnson, Trayshawn Holden are the starters. We expect 2 of those 3 to be gone in 2025. Trayshawn Holden has 2 years left of eligibility this season and next season, according to the C2C Winning Edge data package. Trayshawn Holden's never been a player that's particularly impressed me. Behind those 3, you've got Kyler Casper, junior. This year will be a senior next year. He'll have another year of eligibility after that. I think he's a 2020 class guy. Jerion Dickey, one of my favorites, the number 2 wide receiver in last year's class, the year 1-0. So that's what you're looking at. Oh, and DeCorian Moore, the 5-star freshman wide receiver. There's a lot there for Pelham and Gresham to jump over. Pelham and Gresham are like low-rated 4-star wide receivers. Jeremiah McLaurin a little bit higher rated. If it's anybody, I'm going to take the highest rated wide receiver recruit that we evaluated, and that's Gresham, consistent with the traditional ranking services. But in the freshman guide, we only evaluated McClellan and Pelham. So if that's any indication. And I saw Austin say this in the Discord answering this question, it's probably going to be a transfer. Dan Lanning doesn't seem like the type of coach that's going to just sit around and have a, blah team. He's going to go out and get guys. Oh, by the way, I believe that Phil Knight gave Oregon unlimited NIL money. The answer is probably none of those 3 that we actually care about. Teleport asks, why is Carson Beck overrated? All right, Teleport. I've called the authorities in your town, and they should be on the way soon. Jack asks, what backup QB is most likely to make an impact this year, either due to injury or ineffective play from the starter? That's a good question. That's a question from Jack Sieber in the chat, or in the Discord, I should say. You got to look at Ja'Cory Brown at UCF. I always get UCF and USF mixed up. You got to look at Ja'Cory Brown at UCF because KJ Jefferson, not the healthiest quarterback out there, takes a lot of hits in his play style. So I would look at him, and he's probably going to be running more this year under Gus Malzahn than he has under during his time at Arkansas. I would look at him. I think you got to throw in Connor Harrell out there. Because if Max Johnson is not the starter, we know that Connor Harrell is a dual threat for North Carolina. North Carolina quarterback Connor Harrell. So I got to look at him. I thought he was fine in the bowl game. He had 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, but he showed flashes. And that was his first time starting. I would kind of consider Zion Christ at Houston, given what he did last year, but he's moving up a level. We're always looking at Zach Kitley's quarterbacks at Texas Tech. Cameron Brown appears to be there to be the number 2, but I know a lot of our subscribers and our contributors here are very high on Will Hammond. So it could be either Cameron Brown or Will Hammond there at Texas Tech. And if Hoss Haney at TCU gets a shot, Hoss Haney has like elite. He reminds me a little bit of Tyler Buckner. I know that doesn't sound like a great comp, but you got to remember Tyler Buckner coming out of California before COVID and all that stuff, before he went to Notre Dame. Tyler Buckner, didn't he run for like 1,200 yards as a sophomore? I mean, was just dusting dudes. Tyler Buckner, now a walk-on quarterback and lacrosse player back at Notre Dame and wide receiver, I think. I would put Hoss Haney. I'm making the comparison there to Hoss Haney. I like Hoss Haney too, if he gets an opportunity. So those are some situations that I think that I would pay attention to. Mahitos asks, I want the number 2. Okay. Oh, actually, let me look here. Here we go. Let me bring that up in the Discord because I didn't actually write this one down. I didn't write this one down, and it is live, so it'll take me here a second to find it. His question was, who do I want? Tulane QB battle. Okay, here we go. Mahitos asks, what SEC sophomore would you most like to own out of Chris Brazzell, London Humphreys, or Nick Anderson in traditional CFF redraft? Also, if you don't mind, the same 3 in a keeper format, which one comes across with the greatest upside down the line? I don't think that this is a very hard question to answer at all because I want the number 2 in a Josh Heupel offense with the hopes that I get back to that Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman, Hendon Hooker type production, right? So we know that Squirrel White is probably going to be the number 1. And if you look at Chris Brazzell, he's built a lot like Cedric Tillman. Not as thick, but one of these 6'3", 6'4" guys. I think, and then Chris Brazzell had a touchdown in the spring game. Man, if you get Nico Iamaleava to be more of that vertical, downfield, aggressive thrower with Squirrel White and Chris Brazzell, I think I really like Brazzell. So out of those 3, I like Brazzell. I've actually drafted Brazzell, a bunch of Brazzell this year. I'm not an Anderson fan. And then London Humphreys. What are we doing, folks? I've talked about London Humphreys. Okay? I talked about London Humphreys. He's going to be in a rotation in the 2s. He might be the 5th wide receiver in that rotation. You got Dylan Bell, Colby Young, Dominic Lovett. Those are probably your starters. Arian Smith is in there. And we're talking about London Humphreys there as the number 3, but they're probably going to rotate. So if we're talking about traditional CFF, that's different from C2C, remember? Because in C2C, we're looking for that projection to the next level. We're not in a redraft college fantasy football league. So it's not the 5th wide receiver on a balanced Georgia offense. No, that's not coming into play here. And it's not Nick Anderson because I think that Deion Burks is the one that's going to eat there. And I don't know if it's going to be anybody else. I don't know if it's going to be anybody else there for Oklahoma that you want to start. We got to see. I mean, Jackson Arnold is going to be his first year as a starter. I think it's Deion Burks, and then I don't know who else. Fireman Sam asks, thoughts on the Tulane QB battle? Pratt was always nice to roster. Thornton Thompson, hope for him to be relevant. So we're hanging on to this Ty Thompson thing. I liked Ty Thompson at Oregon. I think a lot of us did. But we're probably making that, oh, he was a 4-star, we're making those arguments again. So I'm not, no, I'm not paying attention to the Tulane quarterback battle. I do like, who's the running back there? I forget the sophomore's name. I do like him. I've rostered him in a couple of positions, but I'm not drafting the quarterback there yet. Hitoxi, even before these questions were submitted on Thursday. He said, what is Devon Dampier's new school going to be after he goes off in week 0? Devon Dampier, he had a nice game. Like I said in the opening of the show, 20 points, losing 2 possessions, in your first game. That's a really high floor, man. That's a really high floor. And just 1 touchdown on the ground, 1 touchdown through the air. He's going to have better games. You would think he would have better games, at least games with more possessions. So I don't know. I don't know that he's going. He is a player that could potentially transfer. I don't think that he's a power 4 guy. This isn't Cam Ward at Incarnate Ward. At least I don't think so. He's a smaller guy. He's a smaller. He's a smaller dual threat quarterback. This is probably more like Giovanni McCoy at Idaho, and then he transfers to Oregon State. So I think that Devon Dampier he's definitely more fun in the G5. Like, how do you feel about Daquan Finn now at Baylor? Are you starting Daquan Finn week 1, making that jump? Or would you feel more comfortable if he was at Toledo and you could play him on Wednesday nights during Maction against, Ball State, Western Michigan Central? So I think that if you are a Devon Dampier fan, which I actually just added him to my rankings, I think I put him in the 80s somewhere. Yes, Mekhi Hughes at Tulane. Thank you, Challen. So yeah, I don't think you want him to get a new school. You want him to stay out there in the Mountain West or stay in the group of 5. Definitely stay in there in the group of 5. Okay, is that it? Let's see. What other question? There was another question here that I didn't write down, but I really liked it. Where was it? Okay, this question is from Norwich. He asked 5 questions, and I think I like a lot of them. He said, who is my oh man. He said, who was my NFL CFB comparison when you used to play? I grew up in the 90s. I'm not saying this is a comparison, but Randy Moss was my favorite player. I was an athlete, although myself. Like, I played wide receiver, I played quarterback, I was the punter, I was the kicker, I was the punt and kick returner. So one of these, a 1-star athlete or a no-star athlete. How about that? Do you think you could run? Do you think you could run a sub 40 a sub 5 second 40 right now, or have you allowed yourself to become the dust? I have not allowed myself to become the dust. I was probably at best a 4.6 40 guy. So have I lost 0.4 of a second off my 40? I don't know. I'll tell you what, though. We went to the Expo 2 years ago. Young Austin thought that he could beat this old man, and he had another thing coming. I'm going to be honest. I think if I trained I think I could get 4.8 if I trained for a month. If I trained for a month, got on the Woodway, shut a couple. I think I could do 4.8. I think I could do 4.7, to be honest. But that's just me having a big head. That's me having a big head. And I'll tell you what, though. There's no dust in the weight room. If you want to come throw it around in the weight room, we can do that. You want to throw up 225, we can do that. If you had to pick a running back, a center, and 3 wide receivers, okay, listen to this question, guys. Follow Norwich here. If you had to pick a running back, a center, and 3 wide receivers for a flag football game, out of everyone that is affiliated with C2C, who are you picking for each position, and who is the guy you're definitely not picking? Oh man. Okay, I'm going to. This was fun. I can't pick that. That's a lot of players. That's a lot of people. I'll tell you that I would pick the people who have athletic backgrounds. So Austin played soccer in college. Matthew played baseball in high school. And I'm pretty sure Jarek was a pole vaulter in either college or high school. So those three, I think I'm taking. I'm probably going to play quarterback in this one. And those three. And I was trying to think. So big wide receiver guy, Matt, he was an offensive lineman in high school, So he's probably my center. He's probably my center. And that's about as far as I got. So, all right. So let me know in the chat if you like just doing a video thing on the waiver wire, because I want to do this every Sunday. I recorded 2 out of the 3 days that I wanted to record last week. So let's see if I can make it this week, starting with one. We got one. Of course, we got the Wednesday show, Campus to Canton Live. Then my goal is to do a Thursday show, but we got college football this Thursday. So it might be a pregame show with Matt and Chris. I might join there. But all right, get this to 25 likes. Let's add 100 subscribers this week on the Campus to Canton YouTube page. Support college fantasy football. All right, y'all.